Welcome, this is Aaron Squire, and tonight we're going to be talking about some of. I have an interview that I pre recorded with Bogdan last Saturday, and he's the creator of the HexTCGBrowser website, the one that I use so much uh, to do all of my deck doctoring. So it's really going to be a treat for you guys to see that. Also, we have this new interface. I hope you guys like it. This is set up a bunch of my models last weekend and took a couple of photos. So I have some different things to choose from. If there's something you guys don't like, just make sure to let me know. Make a comment about it. We'll also be talking about Corey's blog, the Apprentice program, the dev updates, version 8.29, which haven't come out this week. They'll be coming out next week. And then we'll be talking about a Nonsense sent me a deck, one of my viewers, and it's a Ruby deck, which has a couple of interesting nuances to it. So first, I'm going to go ahead and set up this video. All right, well, this is Aaron Squire, and I'm coming to you guys with a special interview Mr. Bogdan, who is the creator of one of the sites that I use predominantly to do all of my deck doctoring, all of the deck building, the HexTCGBrowser, I believe is what it's called. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. So Bogdan is coming to us all the way from Romania. So we're actually recording this prior to the show so that we can make sure to bring it to you guys this week. So Bogdan, what's it like in Romania? Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah. It's really nice nowadays.
Right.
Yeah. Not so good. So like 20 years ago.
Right.
But we are getting a lot better now. And
right.
yeah, I've heard you've been in Romania, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I have. I was in Constanta for a little while. I noticed wasn't a lot of color in the wintertime, but then summertime kind of came around and the color came out, and it was really actually pretty nice there. It's right next to the Black Sea, I believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
The Black Sea, and it's really nice. It's really nice out there.
So you got to tell me, what got you interested in Hex? Like, what's your background there? Like, how did you find out about Hex all the way in Romania to get on? I'm guessing you're a backer of some sort. So just tell me about that.
Yes. Well, I should start with the website actually.
Okay.
That's how I got to Hex. So the website originally was for Oath TCG, which was the first TCG I played.
Okay.
And at that time, like 5 years ago, when I started to play, I wanted to search the cards on web and couldn't find a nice database. So I decided, okay, I should build one. And because programming is like my hobby, I spent a lot of time building the database. Maybe you know it if you are.
Oh, I know all about it. Well, I mean, I know all about like your programming. I know a little bit about databasing, very little. But yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from, because I remember playing some of the old Star Wars and having no idea what all the cards were in the set. This is back before, when the internet was kind of like in its infancy, and like 28.8 was like pretty good, and 56K was like blazing speed. So
yeah, exactly. And at that time I couldn't find a real nice database. They were like all like last century or something. And yeah, that's how I started. And after taking care for WoW TCG for like until last year, and when they decided, I've followed the Cryptozoic forums, and I was in. No, I knew most of what they are working on, and that's how I got to Hex. And yeah, I said, okay, I have the database, the framework, and everything, so I should make one for Hex, because it's the next game I'm gonna play. Like,
right. It's the next big things, and it's definitely one of the nicest databases I've used to do deck building. I remember I used a different one at the beginning of my series, and someone recommended your web base, and as soon as I saw it, it was great. It gave me stats. It gave me exactly what I wanted to see as far as the the bars, basically showing me my resource curve. And the only other thing it could do was count icons for me. If it could do that, like that's the only thing I would ask it. It can.
It can. Yeah. I
Okay.
have to show you, but it can. I followed one of your, I think last show where
Right.
you mentioned something, and I was preparing. I was preparing this. I will show you where.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Okay.
So definitely show me after the show, and so that way I can use it the next time I get on, and instead of having to count it up on air and being embarrassed about my math skills, that would be good.
Sure.
So you just talked to me about your TCG background a little bit. You played the WoW TCG. Obviously, that was a little bit maybe easier to get into, maybe a little bit cheaper over there in Romania, or like what is that compared to like the Magic scene over there? Tell me about that.
Well, I started with WoW TCG because I'm an ex-WoW player, so I didn't heard of any TCGs before,
Right.
just directly on WoW TCG, and I wasn't really so interested in Magic and all the other ones, so I stick with WoW. And as I was also working on the database, I wasn't so interested in others, but I. There are not really so many people here playing. Actually, WoW
Right.
I only played casually with my girlfriend or some
Sure.
other friends. And I know there are some Magic players, and there is a scene here for them. Not a big one, but there is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect in Europe and different countries where it's maybe a little bit more difficult to come by this stuff, there to be as big of a scene. But so it's surprising that someone like yourself is over there doing all this stuff for this game that, like, you're basically helping out all of us people over in the United States or
Yeah,
the UK and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you put the website in English, so I mean, we really can't ask for very much more than that.
And with Hex, this is what I like, because we can now interact with the other, things that it wasn't really possible for WoW because we didn't have any tournaments here or any other players. So.
Right. So
But
you
with
think?
Hex, it's great.
So
Yeah.
do you think in foreign countries like Romania that Hex is going to be like a huge thing just because, for instance, Magic doesn't have the foothold that it has here in the States, or I know in the UK, like that's dominated by Games Workshop and a lot of the models, which actually you see in front of you, some of the models I painted up. But I mean, do you think that going forward, what do you think that it looks like over there for that type of thing? I mean, is League of Legends like a big deal? Because if that is, then I would expect a lot of other stuff to take off very easily.
To be honest, I'm not sure about League of Legends because I'm not into gaming except hexing anymore. So I'm not really sure what's happening. But I know that not only in UK but also in Germany and Poland, for example, have a big TCG market. Let's say there are a lot of players there. Not also Russia, but yeah, Russia is a lot bigger. And yeah, Italy maybe. I've heard there are also many players there.
Right. I know there's a lot of in the Magic scene. Like there's a lot of people that will seek after like German and Japanese cards and things like that.
Yeah, I hope it will develop here very much. For example, WoW was very popular here.
Right.
WoW, the game, not the TCG.
Well, sure, but that also leads to people wanting to get the TCG for the dual purpose of either getting the loot cards or playing the game. Either one of those things.
Yeah, maybe the real cards are a bit expensive here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because these countries are not like.
They're not as developed, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe
Plus the import fees and all that other stuff. So I mean, the price points. I mean, I'm not sure what $2 is in Romanian money, or if that's a lot, or if how that transfers. But I mean, typically, like our packs are going to cost $2. Is American is what they're saying. Also, a while back, Cryptozoic talked about how it is that they were partnering with specific people for like the European region and I believe the Asian region. I'm not sure if there was another one, but basically there's a couple different regions where they're partnering with people just to take care of like language barriers and other like social issues that might come up.
Yeah.
So I mean, I forget which.
This is great.
Yeah, I think it's a great step in the right direction. I think it's a good thing because they can't necessarily know exactly how it is that all these things. Like for instance, I know in Japan, like death or like living zombies and skeletons and things. That's like a big deal. Like you can't have a lot of that stuff. You have to classify it differently or like make it show up differently.
Yeah.
Because of their religious views or
They're
something.
also in China, something like this. I know.
Maybe it's in China.
They can have bodies or something.
Right.
Corpses.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, there are sensibilities that we may not understand. So I think that was really a big, a good step in the right direction. So, I can't really think of too much else to talk about with you. Did you want to plug? Let's go ahead and have you plug your website, and then unless you have something else to say, we can kind of close this out.
If you have any other question, maybe related directly to the website, maybe there are some stuff that I don't know. Maybe you're not sure how to use them, or yeah.
Well, I mean, we've used it extensively on the show. I mean, I do like all the different options. I love how you can make the cards bigger and smaller. Obviously, I like the way it does all the stats and so I get my resource curve. You're going to show me after the show how I can make it count up the icons, so I'm going to start doing that to speed things up for the show, for my show. I also like
analyzer.
Right, on the right side.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you seem to keep this database up to date, like within hours of the patch somehow. I'm not sure how you're doing that. That's pretty ridiculous to me.
Well, it's easier for me because, for example, yesterday when I get back from home, it's like it was like 8 in the evening. So it was. I just sat on the computer and I saw the update, so it was easy for me to.
So you're pulling the files. Is that what you're doing? And then you're adding on the back end of the numbers and that type of thing. Is that what you're doing? Right,
exactly.
And then because the image just gives you the text, and then the numbers are what you need for the stats on top.
Yeah, the text from the tooltips is the correct one. Maybe not all the screenshots are here because it's very hard to just keep track of all the images that are changing, and I'm expecting some way to get all of them at once.
Right, they're all in PNGs, maybe. I can't remember.
Yeah, they're PNGs. It doesn't really matter because I have to convert them anyway.
Right.
In different sizes.
So the website that you have up, you actually pay for web space, I'm guessing. So, I mean, what's that like? I mean, you're basically paying for something that, I mean, was it ad supported, or like how are you breaking even on that? Are you doing okay with that? Or I know that you do have I think you have a donate button on your site too, as well, right?
Yeah. It's not really used, but
well, it's there, and if people want to have good websites like this, and someone that's working hard behind the scenes to make sure that we have this tool, I'd encourage people to donate. I should probably donate, actually. The amount of time I've spent on it. The
thing is that this is like my hobby.
Right.
Like, you're playing for your hobbies, we're gonna pay for playing tax, and so I'm just paying a little fee for keeping the domain and the server. So
it's not too bad.
Really, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm doing this for fun in my spare time, so it's not like I'm waiting something to return. It's just it all started because I wanted to have something nice that I can browse the cards and see them.
Right, exactly. Actually, you know what someone told me the other day was that the guy that built YouTube, the reason why he built it was because the Super Bowl where there was that Justin and whatever her name is, that incident, the what do they call that? Disrobing, basically, incident that was on the air. He was trying to find video of that and he couldn't find it anywhere, so he started YouTube so people could upload it. And now look where he is now. So I mean. Small steps, I mean, in certain directions, and things can become a lot bigger, a lot more than what you originally had you know.
Exactly.
And
So
so,
you see, I started with one database, and now we have three,
right,
because I also have one for Might and Magic, Duel of Champions,
right.
for anyone who is interested.
So go ahead and plug your website for us, and let us know how to find you, or if anyone else wants to contact you or talk to you about the website. Can you go ahead and give us that information?
I'm not sure I got this right.
Can you give us the information for your website, like the web address and like
Sure.
your
So
Twitter?
it's x.tcgbrowser.com.
Mhm.
You'll find it there. And Twitter, it's TCGBrowser. We also have a Facebook page, HexTCGBrowser, I think.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So don't let me butcher your name. It's Bogdan, right?
Bogdan.
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 So this is Bogdan. If you guys wanted to know who was the face behind the HexTCG browser that I use every week, this is the guy that's putting it all together. I hope you guys like our new background. I'm gonna try to work this in next week and get it pared down where it'll be a nice interface for you guys. But just make sure to support him. At least give him some kind words or something, because he's doing a great thing, helping out the community. And yeah. Until next time, this is Aaron Squire saying God bless you and your families, and try not to rage too much out there. And start off with some of the news. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. We had to do that because of the time difference. We had to change some. We had to basically pre-record that. I know there was some difficulty with the sound on Bogdan's side. A little bit of problems there, but let's just go ahead and move on to Corey's blog. We'll start off with that. You know, from if you watched Corey talk to John and to Infamous last week, then you would know that Corey has a passion for art, and this blog entry is all about the art for the game. So if you have, you know, of course I always encourage you to get out there and read his blog and see what he has to say about creating the game that we all love so much. The art in the game is really great, and he's actually giving back to the community by the way he's going about it. He's not just hiring people and just keeping it all in-house. You know, he's going out there to those deviant art forums and contacting lots of people, and he just talks about how it is that going through that, they maintain control by using things like this style guide. You'll notice it says things like it says, do not deviate from this shape, or like it says, you will do this, you will make it this way, or you know, it's kind of like or else. Basically, it's going to get thrown out type of thing. So it's really interesting to see how it is that they're maintaining control of the look, for instance, of these. I believe these are elves. So yeah, for like these elves, or like the Shin'hare, or the all the different races that are in the game. It's really interesting to see how they maintain that while allowing artists to come in there and give their own renditions of different things. Pretty much that's all there is to talk about right there. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the Update Friday. So the major thing that they talk about on here is their apprentice program. And there's a bunch of people that applied for this. They picked up 4 people. So here are the 4 guys. I'll go ahead and zoom in on their faces so you guys can see them a little bit bigger there. So we have Mateo Wilson, Justin Southwick, Ryan Sutherland, and Gavin Rapp. I probably butchered, it might have been Matteo, so I'm really sorry, Matteo, if you watch this, or Mateo. I'll just call you Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson. Dan Clark talks about how it is that they're doing some of the things in the how they're doing some of the game nights and testing the game. And then, of course, at the very beginning of the blog, my favorite guy, Chris Woods, talks about, he kind of geeks out on a lot of the technical stuff with the game, and how it is that the servers are going to be so much better, and he wants to just use them to crunch numbers. Moving on to something you guys might be a little bit more engaged on is going to be some of these new development highlights. So the power levels, they're changing some of the cards again, and this is probably going to be some of the last changes we're going to see. We've got another HexTCG Pro tournament coming up, and so I'm thinking that when we do go to the new servers, it's probably going to be after that, because they really want to see what this is going to do to the landscape for the competitive play, I think. So I'm just going to run through these really quick. We got Hideous Conversion, reduced cost from 3 to 2. Basically, this was something that allowed you to sack dudes to get resources. So it could be used maybe with a ton of dudes to cast a really huge life siphon or something. It's a constant that sits in play, so they reduced the overall cost of the of placing it in play from 3 to 2. It's probably still not going to see that much play, I would say. Inferno cost reduced from 3 to 2. I'm really not for this because the card itself was decently powerful enough, and it's probably going to see play, but it's one of those cards where it will randomly win you games, and it's not going to really feel that great to get beat by it. Somewhat of a negative play experience for me personally. Moving on, we got Induction Coil. This is the one where you can activate it every turn and get yourself a charge, and they were a little bit worried about this, but they haven't seen it get a lot of play. I know I tried to use it early on a couple months ago when I first saw it. They reduced the activation cost from 3 to 2, so it may see some more play, but it's going to be one of those that's going to be very difficult to, I would say, to make it so that it's going to actually break anything or be really, overpowered. Oath of Valor, on the other hand, they reduced the cost from 4 to 3, and I've been testing this card extensively, playing with Shin'hare tokens, because I feel like that's the most powerful thing to use it with right now, as far as one troop that you could play and get a lot of is concerned. I mean, I've had a lot of 4 or 5 tokens that have been beating people in the face, so this is going to be a crazy card to have in those Shin'hare Diamond Wild decks. I still think it's going to be a must for that type of archetype, and so I would encourage you all to try it out. I'm going to go ahead and go over a deck that actually uses all that stuff that I've been testing and doing a lot of flipping things here and there, a lot of polishing with before I do our deck doctor. Dream Dance goes from 3 to 2. This is the one wherever you play a dude, all of your dudes make you draw a card and then discard a card. So you have to have at least one card, otherwise you just end up discarding the card you drew. So another card that maybe there's something you can do with it that could make it broken. I guess it could make it so that if you have resources, you just hold on to resources, and then that way late in the game when you're playing your dudes, those resources turn into spells or more dudes. Royal Falconer, the cost changed from 5 to 4. They're saying they didn't see it getting enough play, and I've seen this card played quite a lot, especially in draft. So I see this card seeing more play now than it used to see. Royal Falconer, of course, puts the 2 birds in play, and they get the power equal to his power. So they become like on the basic Royal Falconer, I believe they're 2/1s. Because he was a 2/2, they reduced his defense from 2 to 1, so it makes it easier for him to chump off. And if you do kill him, his birds get debuffed as well. Erig the Robomancer and Elite Battletech get a little bit beefier, so they're a little bit better bodies that can sit there and block for you. Before, I believe Erig was like a 1/2 and Battletech was also a 1/2 or something. So they were really horrible bodies for like the cost of like 4 and 5 resources. So that's definitely a good thing. I really support that. I still don't know how much more play they're going to see competitively in a constructed manner. However, they're definitely going to see more play. I know I like playing them in sealed for sure, especially like Erig. Prophet of the Logdon is moving its attack from 2 to 3. This is the guy that when you play him, he makes 2 copies of himself and they come into play. You're supposed to use him with some sort of, what do you call it, a Inspire deck type of thing. And he's probably still not going to see play because I think he costs like 7. So I don't think he's going to see play. I mean, you're getting 3/3/3s for 7. I don't know. It's okay. Maybe if he had flying or something. I don't know. Something like that. Mimic's cost is going from 4 to 2, which is huge because this is going to make the game, this card much more playable, because now you have a lot better chance of actually playing that card that you mimicked the same turn. And I'm trying to remember. I believe that when you do mimic something, if you mimic your opponent's thing, it becomes an artifact, and those artifacts are not unique. I know that. I remember that. But I believe it also doesn't have any threshold costs, so you don't have to worry about that. So you can mimic your opponent's Urnaz if you had enough resources. If you had 9 resources, you can mimic him and play him in the same turn, whereas before you would need like 11, which is, you know, not very possible. Not too much about the Shin'hare here. They're just saying that they're going to buff them a little bit, or they're going to make them a little bit stronger, flipping some things around. So that's going to be interesting to see. Shin'hare, as everybody knows, have not really been seen very much constructed play or even sealed play. So usually you're using that Shin'hare champion and you're just buffing that token, or you're using a token to chump off or something. Zombie Plague has had its cost moved from 2 to 3, which is probably a good thing because the card was really powerful. It's still going to see play. I think it's going to see less play as far as how many Zombie Plagues you're going to see in your deck, because a turn 2 Zombie Plague can be really rough for a lot of the aggro decks to deal with. So turn 3 feels a lot better. Moving on, Inquisitor has been nerfed again. They're making the cost go from 3 to 4. That's all they're really saying here, and I think it's pretty well justified. I mean, it's a 3/1 body that just keeps coming back. I don't see a problem there. The interesting thing about this decision is now Inquisitor, as far as curve is concerned, is going to compete for slot with the Vampire King. So you're going to have to really think about which one you want more, and that's, you know, and how much clunkiness is acceptable when you're playing that Blood Sapphire deck. So we may even see people start playing with 3 or 2 Inquisitors instead of playing the playset. So we'll see what happens with that in the future. Jadim has had its text change from permanent to this turn, which makes it a much less of a threat, but it's still a huge threat because it is flying. So the big thing they point out is if you play time Mastery of Time with Jadim, at that point in time, your opponent has basically won the game, because you know you've got 10-10 Jadim swinging, and then they get another turn that's swinging with another 10-10 Jadim. So it's like an auto win, unless they have a murder in response or something. But most of the time, if your opponent's casting Mastery of Time, you're probably tapped out anyways. I Have Creation has been changed, probably to the chagrin of a lot of forum goers, because I know there was a huge uproar after the last HexTCG Pro tournament. And the funny thing to me is, so what they did to nerf it was they basically said, okay, you can put creatures into play, but none of this resource stuff. They added the resource after it didn't do what it did before they nerfed it the last time. So before, what it used to do was, it used to do all spells, troops, and stuff, and if it drew itself, it would cast itself again, which basically could play the entire deck out. So then they nerfed it, so it was just resources and troops, any troops you drew, and now they've nerfed it again and made it just troops. And I think that's good, because it should be one of these things where it's very much a if I cast this and I don't draw anything, it basically became a dead card. So I really need to cast it for 5 and 6. You know, I really felt like that before, but when, you know, you've only got 8 cards in your deck that are spells, and 4 of them are Chlorophylla, and the other 4 are Eye of Creation, chances are pretty good you're going to hit at least 1 troop and at least 1 resource. So now with the change, you probably want to draw about 3 cards with it, I would say. So casting it for 6 again, kind of going back to that. Of course, the funny thing to me is, like, I always thought, like, when I first saw it, that it didn't actually put the resources into play. It actually took me about 24 hours to figure out that it did put the resources into play. Next, we've got Chlorophylla has had its cost reduced from 3 to 2, and its game checks changed to play a random wild shard from your deck. So basically put it into play. I'm guessing it's putting it into play and you get to actually activate it that turn. So that's pretty awesome. So what that means is that it basically became rampant growth +1, because it's putting it into play and it's not exhausted. So you could actually use it that turn. I think this is more of a buff than anything else, because I really hated having Chlorophylla in my 3-point slot for all of my ramp decks. I actually wanted to have it in the 2-point slot where Rampant Growth typically sits. also, this is going to deck thin us, which is going to make it a lot easier for us to not draw more shards. Seems pretty good. And there's only 4 of them in the deck, so it's not a lot of deck thinning, but still, it is noticeable. It's not exactly rampant growth. It's actually better than rampant growth, as far as you know, for people with that magic background that know what rampant growth is. So that's about it as far as some of the changes that are coming down the pike possibly next week. They didn't do a patch this week, so we'll look forward to those. So we're going to move on to our deck doctor. We've got this nonsense deck, but before we do that, I'm just going to show you a deck that I've been working on, which is the Shin'hare deck, and I called it Hair Tokens, I believe, is what I... No, is this the right one? No, this is not the right one. This is not the right one. Hold on. Let's go to... you know what? It probably is Hair Tokens, I guess. Okay, so it is. That last one was the right one. So I'll just go through it real quick. And this has actually been doing pretty well for me. Although I think... Is this exactly what I had? Okay, so I'm not actually running all this stuff, so I have actually made some changes. I was actually trying something else with this specific build. But the main thing that you're looking at with this deck is Oath of Valor plus your either Crash of Beasts, which is going to give you plenty of Rhinos to play, or you have Runts of the Litter, which could make a lot of runts, and of course you've got Monika'shin. So typically you're going to want to put Oath of Valor on Runts of the Litter, or on one of those battle hoppers. Now the thing that the thing I hope that they change in the future is the way Oath of Valor works, as far as like the way it reads and the way it should work. So what we need to make sure that this card does, as far as the way it reads, it says when this constant enters play, it's okay. This particular version says choose a troop you control, but the game version says name a troop, and that's much different. That's a big deal, because if it's choose a troop you control, then your opponent could murder in response, and then you wouldn't have a target for it, which means that you would have an Oath of Valor that would sit on the board and do nothing. So hopefully they change that. I'm not sure if that's the way it's going to work now, because sometimes even when things go to the graveyard, they still get targeted right now. But the way the card reads, it says name a card. So what should happen is, even if you had no battle hoppers in play, or no anything else that you could possibly want to buff with this card, it should just come up with a list of all the cards that it could target in the game, all the troops, and you should get to choose the name off of there, because that's the way it works as far as Magic is concerned. Most Magic cards say name a card. I name a card. It really doesn't matter if it's in play or not. I am naming the card. So that's one thing I hope happens with that. Of course, we did see the buff to it. It's now a 3 cost. I'm not sure if it's going to go up to a 2 threshold, though. Of course, you're running Senseis, you're running the Bucktooth Commander. The version I have runs like 12 to 13 Anthem effects, which is +1/+1 to all your troops, or at least half, which would be like in the case of Command Tower, you get the front end being the +1 power. Ritualist is another one that's rare. I didn't even know this card was rare until recently, but this is a huge card for this deck. The god hands for this deck being Ritualist into like 1 or 2 Runts of the Litter, so you get like a ton of dudes, and then after that you could play Oath of Valor and swing away with the new buff that they just proposed to it. So I really see this as being a pretty powerful deck. This don't look at this specific deck list. I've got one that I've been playing. I was just looking at some things. I'm really not sure about Shroomtank. I was trying Shroomtank with Puck, just a single Puck and like 4 Howling Braves to ramp into it. But the ramp's going to be inconsequential if Oath of Valor costs 3, because that was where I really kind of wanted it to sit anyways. So moving on to the deck doctor of tonight. So the nonsense deck. So this is a user that wrote in, and here's his nonsense deck that he gave me. So he's running Poca. It's a blood Ruby control, and the first thing I'm seeing right off the bat is we've got Gore Feast. He's got like 4 of these, which could be a little bit clunky. It's one of those where we need to have troops in play. It's a buff. It's going to give us 2 attack phases, but if we have no troops in play, it's not going to do anything for us. So drawing like 2 or 3 of these in our opening hand could be a little bit awkward. Spot got the Vampire King. Inquisition is an interesting choice because I'm not sure if he's trying to go aggro or control. He's also got Claw of the Mountain God. Not sure how that fits into this deck really. His curve actually doesn't look horrible. I mean, he's got plenty of 2-drops. His 1-drops are not great, but he's running 24 shards as well. He's also running 3 Shards of Fate. I'm not really a big fan of that. Tatalka's seems pretty solid for anything that's trying to do this type of thing. Pyromancer plus Inquisitor, we saw that all last tournament, and that was pretty ridiculous with the Ruby gem. I'm guessing that's the way he wants this to be gemmed, so that's probably the way we'll go with that. That's pretty much a must right there. Even with Inquisitor now costing 4, it's still going to see play, and I think that we still put it in this deck. And that's another interesting thing to me is how it is that 4-cost cards in some of the shards, like in Wild, are not like there's not a lot of them or a lot of good choices in that 4-point range, which is kind of interesting to me. It's got Lord Alex in here. I guess that kind of works with Inquisitor or Tatalka. It'll allow you to fight something right off the bat. Okay, I think that's acceptable. Not sure if I like it. I guess with Drows, yeah, it's instant. You know, this is basically a ball lightning for this deck, because if you're behind on life, I mean, I guess he's got Vampire King to gain some life back, so maybe Drows could swing again. Maybe I would just one of the Drows if I'm going to keep it at all. Zombie Plague, of course, went up to a 3-cost for him. This is another card where I'm not sure why this is in the deck, because I feel like this is more of a control-y type of card. It's going to be ridiculously slow, and it feels like he's trying to push through damage. He's also got a Shrine of Prosperity in here, which is also an interesting choice. I suppose it buffs his stuff. It buffs Tatalka, makes it easier for her to kill something, Inquisitor, but it's not another body, so it could be another dead card for him. So that's our quick overview, our breeze over. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to take down Drow's Walker down to 1, and we're going to take this Gore Feast down to 2. I don't know that I could run more than 2 Gore Feasts in this deck. Vampire King is so good, we should probably buff that up to 4. Inquisition is removal, but I'm not sure that we need it. This feels like more of a sideboard card for this type of deck. So we're just gonna remove these. We're gonna put it on the sideboard. That's what we're gonna do. Claw, I really just don't see in this deck at all. We'll go ahead and just we'll put 3 of them there. I'm really not sure why this is in the deck. The thing is, he has nothing to, like, if he gets in trouble, he needs to sacrifice it or something. His opponent could just sit on a board state with him, or, like, if he hits it with, like, something that incapacitates it, like, what do you call it, Inner Conflict, then it just sits on the board and deals damage to him. I mean, it does cost 3, which is pretty nice. But I don't know. I've never really been a fan of Claw of the Mountain God. It has that 2 threshold. We're in double threshold. We really kind of want to aggro stuff through. If we're playing Poca, we probably want to slant more towards the Ruby side of things. So I think we're just going to say no to Claw of the Mountain God. We're just going to remove him completely. Inquisitor stays in. Pyromancer obviously stays in. So we need to remember that Inquisitor actually costs 4. Some of these things are going to be changing in the future. So Lord Alex, we could probably do 3, should be fine. I typically would play 2 in a deck because I don't like having clunky hands. If I draw 2 Lord Alex in my opening hand, that can be a little bit clunky. But I do like the interaction of Lord Alex with Tatalka and also with Drows, and especially Vampire King. So maybe having 3 in here is kind of necessary. Zombie Plague, I don't think really belongs in here at all. I think that's more of a control card and is for the long game. I mean, if you're going to put it in here, throw it on the sideboard to deal with, I don't know, Inquisitor or something in your opponent's deck, which it might deal with, it might not. This is Shrine of Prosperity. So Shrine of Prosperity, you can't see the picture for it because it's I guess the image is not working properly, but basically it has 3 different things that it looks at the top card of your deck, and so you're showing your opponent what you have in hand, which is pretty bad. So if it's a troop, it gets +1/+1. If it's a resource, it gains a charge. If it's a non-troop, non-resource, it gets -1 cost. I don't think this is going to be that relevant for this deck. It is neat that Shrine will make Shards of Fate give you a charge, but more charges for Poca, I guess, gives you another Poca token to throw at your opponent. I mean, at least it does that, but I don't know. I'm really not seeing it. I think we want to be more aggro than anything else, so we're going to go ahead and remove this. This is another card that could be dead. Like if we need a body to block with or something, to trade with, it's not going to be conducive. It's a buff, and our buff, what we've chosen, is Gore Feast of Kog'Tepetl. Let's see. So now we just need to figure out what we're going to throw in here. So Ragefire is pretty obvious. We're probably putting Ragefire in here. We're at 48 cards. That's a pretty easy choice to make. I mean, a deck like this, Ragefire can win you games when you top deck it late in the game and deal, between 8 and 16 damage to your opponent. So let's go ahead and change this to PvP, go through Ruby and Blood. Now I feel like this was a decently strong deck in the last tournament. We just didn't see a lot of it make it. It just didn't make it through for whatever reason. It does deal a lot of damage pretty quickly, and it's more like mid-range, I guess. I mean, I guess so. It's not really dealing damage that quickly, but it's pretty good. Heatwave is a chance that we could play this in here because it doesn't hit a lot of our troops, I don't believe. Let me just go back to the deck. So it doesn't hit Vampire King, doesn't hit Drows, doesn't hit it hits Xentoth, but then we just recur it back. It hits Pyromancer, so it's a little bit clunky there. So out of the entire deck, it hits 2 of our troops, and one of them like recursions back. So you might play maybe 2 in here to deal with some of the early game, like especially if that Shin'hare deck starts picking up steam. Heatwave is going to be a great answer to that. So you're definitely going to want 2 here, I think, and then maybe 2 on the sideboard. This also works against Mono Ruby and a couple of other things. It's all right to 1-for-1 Heatwave. To never be afraid to like 1-for-1 a troop if you feel like that troop really needs to be dealt with like right now. For instance, if your opponent has a resource dork, because then at that point it basically is the same as Ragefire. It's a basic action speed that deals that 2 damage to that guy. So you can basically, if you just look at it that way, then you won't feel so bad about not getting the value of killing 2 things with the Heatwave. It just depends on what you want to do with it, really. But I do think that having the 2 Heatwave is going to be good for this deck, given the curve and what we're trying to do here. Other cards we could consider, Demented Demolisher, probably not, I guess. I was thinking I thought about it for a quick second, though. Fulmination, probably not. Sadistic Castigator, Falconer, of course, here's the old Falconer. He's changing now to a 2/1. He's putting in these Royal Falcons that are, they gain power equal to his strength. Right, exactly. Sometimes you need to kill that early 1-drop. There's only a couple that are really like must kill right away. Bombsmith, probably not. Ruby Aura, probably not. It'd be nice if we had something that buffed our back end, so we could use that in conjunction and save like something with it. Let's see. We've got Gladiator, maybe. Rockcaster might be a decent 5-drop because it's a trade in a good spot. Blood Aura maybe as a 1-of could be all right. We are trying to gain life for Drows, so that might help in that respect. It also is a combat trick, so maybe as a 1-of it would be okay. I have to look back at the deck. Also, so the thing is, Blood Aura on Drows Walker means that I can just keep swinging with Drows Walker. So there is that. I think that's kind of neat, actually. So we'll probably play Blood Aura in here. That's pretty neat. I mean, it's not going to come up very often. We did get rid of one of our Drows. Ember Spire Witch is another one that we could run in here. We'll probably, we typically see these on the sideboard or on the reserves. Tatalka, we could probably go up 1 maybe on Tatalka. Zoltog's another one we could consider maybe. He does that 4 toughness. He's going to dodge for us. So he'll dodge the heat wave that we put in there. The Ragefire is a definite. We'll definitely put 4 Ragefire in here. Tarask. We're playing Drows instead of Tarask. So Tarask might actually... because we're in 2 shards, Tarask is going to be a little bit too prohibitive. Another big one is Theory Crafter, but of course he doesn't really work that well with our Heat Wave that we put in. This is another card that I've seen someone played against me earlier today with this, and totally cheesed me on it. He just basically didn't even go to attack phases with it. Infernos, this is the one that now costs 2. Mortar Strike, probably not. Gawain, probably not. Burn to the Ground as a 1-of seems pretty good in this deck as another finisher. Ruby Lance is maybe an okay card to have like maybe 1 to 2 of. What else have we got that we could put in here? I'm not sure if what we would do is Shame Gladiator. He works with a different deck, more with a different deck. Relentless Corruption, probably not going to be good for this deck because it's not going to do a whole lot of card drawing or other things. Murder would be, I don't know why this wasn't in the deck to begin with, so probably at least 2 of those. Corpse Fly is another one that probably should be seen play in this deck. Extinction on the sideboard wouldn't be bad, but it might be a little bit clunky. You could maybe 1 of it in the mix, in the main mix. Corrupt Harvester, maybe for some more life draining. So I guess if you play Corrupt Harvester, enough Corrupt Harvester with Vampire King, then Drow's Walker, you probably wouldn't have to worry about as much, and then you could 2 of. So I don't know, we'll consider it. But ever since Vampire King came out, he's probably quite a bit better than Corrupt Harvester because he costs the same amount, and he's got a better back end, and his evasion is... He blocks things better, but Corrupt Harvester is arguably a little bit better with evasion. Probably don't need Life Siphon because it doesn't change our board state, although it does work with Drows. So, of course, Atrophy, you could throw this on the sideboard. Probably don't need that Bone Warrior either. So let's go back to the deck and see what we've got. Also, we need to look at the champions. So he's going with Poca. I don't think that's a problem. You could also go with Xerath to get you some more removal, which is typically what I saw people in the tournament doing, as they were running Xerath, because he gives you that, that -1/-1 to one guy for 4 charges is pretty good. So let's just go down the list. I think 2 Heat Waves is about right, and 2 on the sideboard seems pretty good. We definitely want another Shards of Fate, so I'm going to go and throw that up right now, and then I'm just going to reduce one of our other shards here. I think we need the Murder. The Corrupt Harvester, we could probably cut those. Again, the prohibitiveness of its threshold is probably going to be why we're going to pull that. We're in 2 shards, so probably Ruby Lance was a bad idea. The Murder seems pretty good. Giant's Corpse Fly is pretty decent. I don't like playing too much more than maybe 3 of these. I feel like 2 is pretty good. Also, we can swing through with it with our combo of Lord Alex. So Lord Alex gives this guy haste, and we can swing through with a hasted 2/1 flyer with some, it gives us some evasion. So let's see where we're at right now. We actually only need to cut 1 card. We're at 23 shards. I have to look at the... We probably need to go back up to 24. Or actually, we're at 24, right? 24... Yeah, we're still at 24 shards, so we probably want to keep it at about there. We don't have any card drawing, so there's a chance of flooding at 24 shards, but our curve, should be pretty good for that. I'm not sure if anyone really wants to take this Drows up to more than 1. I feel like 1 is pretty good for this deck if he's going to run it at all. You could just completely cut it. It's somewhat clunky. You'd have to play it to really find out if you liked it. But I do think it would be interesting to have Blood Aura plus Drows. So maybe run 2 Blood Drows and 2 Blood Aura. See how that goes for you. Zoltog, let's see how many orcs. I only put him in here because I think he's somewhat interesting, but I don't think we have the orcs to support him, so he's an easy cut. So we'll go ahead and get rid of Zoltog, and then look at what our curve did. So our curve got a little bit better. We got some more 1-drops. We got plenty of 2-drops. So surprisingly, our curve actually got better, in my opinion. And I actually like the way that this turned out. So I'd like to say hello to all you guys that might be saying hello. I haven't really been watching my chat so much. I hope you guys really enjoyed the new interface. Oh yeah, that's right. Witch says I can't gain life either. So yeah, you know what? Probably if we sided in Witch on, we definitely don't want her main deck. But if we side her in on games 2 and 3, we're siding out probably Vampire Kings possibly. It's a little bit clunky, but that seems pretty bad. So I don't know. You may not even put her on the sideboard, but I feel like this is decent. You might go up 1 on the Murder and maybe down 1 on Corpse Fly. You gotta look at your ranges. It's a lot easier to swap things in the same range. So if I want to add a Murder, maybe get rid of another 3-drop, Of course, so we do have to look at a couple of things here, though. Inquisitor is actually in the wrong range because it's actually going to be over here. So we actually only have, 10 4-drops, and we have what is that? 12 minus, that would be 8. So that's actually not good with the changes that they've made to Inquisitor. So this is a time when it is that you would kind of make a decision between Inquisitor and Vampire King, I think, quite possibly, or maybe doing something else. Because that just is a little bit clunky there. Or maybe take one of your 2-drops and make it into a 1-drop, and then you have a better curve overall. But the curve looks decent. It doesn't look horrible. I mean, even with that change, you should be okay. Another thing you might consider running is Adaptable Infusion Device if you're really having trouble getting the double thresholds. I mean, let's look at all the double threshold. We got like Vampire King, the Gore Feast. The Gore Feast isn't, you know, some of the stuff that costs 4 shouldn't be as bad to get to it, but, and of course now the Inquisitor costs 4. Alexander, Ragefire is probably going to be the toughest thing for us to cast at the right time in the deck. We also have this Corpse Fly. So, yeah. So this seems okay. You would have to play it. Of course, now we have Corpse Fly for Heat Wave, so maybe Corpse Fly and Heat Wave don't work very well, actually. So let's actually probably pull those. It should be okay, though. I mean, you only got 2 Heat Wave. But we'll go ahead and buff the Murders up a little bit. And maybe that'll change our curve a little bit. Looks like it didn't update. Something didn't update. Give me a second. I want to check to see if I wonder if he updated this already. No, he didn't. So before we close out, we'll go ahead and go over all the shards on the deck. So if you go up here, and it's not over here, but you go up here to hit this Analyze button, you can see all the shards in the deck, and it actually gives you the percentage of shards in the deck. So you can see that you have 40% blood and then 60% ruby. I actually talked to Bogdan, and he's going to go ahead and try to give me a number at the very end here to count these up, because the percentages are nice to me, but I really kind of want to see exactly what it is. So this is like a 2-3 split, 3 being in our ruby, which is good because we're playing a ruby champion anyway. So probably going with something like either an 11 or a 12 should be fine for this deck. You could go with this, or you could go with this. So either 12 ruby. So we probably 12 ruby might be better, because we really want to play these Ragefires as soon as possible in this deck, and that's kind of a big deal for us. Of course, Inquisitor is also a big deal, but now it costs 4. So we'll just talk about some of the things that we went over tonight, and I'm going to go and swap back to my new cool interface to close out the session here. So tonight we talked about some of Corey's blog. I went ahead and talked to Bogdan, who did the HexTCG browser, which I use in like every episode. You guys just saw me use it again. Make sure you're supporting him by hitting him up on Twitter. I don't think he has that many Twitter followers, and he's got a Facebook, Google Plus, and then if you're so inclined, hook him up with some beer by getting him some cash, because he is paying for the servers out of his own pocket. Along with that, we went over the apprentice program that Cryptozoic has chosen 4 new apprentices. We talked about some of the dev updates and some of the balancing that's going to be happening pretty soon. We also went over this deck by Nonsense, one of my viewers, so I hope he likes what I did with it. I hope it works for him. And other than that, make sure to check us out next week. Next week, I'm just going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. There's a very good chance that I'm going to have one of the developers from Hex on my 25th episode. Along with that, we're going to have a giveaway of a Slacker Backer. Slacker Backer, as everybody knows, is gone. It's after April 1st. And Slacker Backer is gone, and I actually have one, and I've gotten the go-ahead from Will to give that away. It's going to take some time to get it to someone, so make sure you guys are telling your friends to get on so that they have a chance to win this. I really want it to go to somebody that doesn't have access to the game, if possible, so we're going to try to work that out next week. and I'm not sure which dev is going to be on with me. It's possible it could be Dan, or it could be Dan Clark, or it could be someone else. It could be a couple of different people that are going to come on. It depends on scheduling, and I might have to do what I did before, where I do an interview on this weekend and then port it over and then just replay it for you guys next Friday. So make sure you make it out. It's 8 o'clock Central Time for Deck Building with the Squire, as it always is. And then also catch us in syndication with our YouTube. And this deck list will be down below if you're looking for it. Other than that, this is Aaron Squire saying God bless you and your families, and try not to rage too much out there.